Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Pajama Sunday. Welcome to Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. It's great to see you here today. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving, and here we are celebrating together as a community. So let's start our celebration by standing up, and we're going to sing the song, all of these things that you'll find on the right side of your program. God is life. And so let us breathe deeply and settle into that power and that awareness that is just so sweet and beautiful within us. We breathe, we let go, we allow ourselves to be still, and we listen to the words of our sacred reading.
Sabbath by Richard Rohr. The anonymous author of The Cloud of Unknowing wrote, "You only need a tiny scrap of time to move toward God." The sacrament of Sabbath was offered by the Jewish people as a gift for all humanity. In our busy, technology-driven culture, it is especially important that we intentionally seek rest and recreation. Sabbath might be saying that at least 1/7 of life must be about non-performance and non-egoistic pursuit, or we forget our life's purpose. Friend and Mennonite minister Anita Amstutz writes in her book, Soul Tending, A Journey into the Heart of Sabbath. The Sabbath, or Shabbat in Hebrew, is one of the most important days instituted by God in the Hebrew Bible, literally meaning to cease, to end, to rest. The Sabbath follows 6 task-oriented building and creating days with 24 hours of rest and spiritual enrichment on the 7th. The 10 Commandments calls not only for remembering, but also for observing Sabbath. For traditional Jewish people, the Sabbath is honored beginning at sundown on Friday and lasts until the first 3 stars show in the sky on Saturday evening. It is a highly prescribed day of rest, though some of the rules have relaxed over the centuries. The Sabbath imperative is not to accomplish or to initiate anything, refuting the belief that you have to do something to be worthy. The original vision of Sabbath calls us to cease doing something, acquiring things, making stuff, expecting returns. Instead, we are called to just be and receive the Creator's good gifts. Forget stifling restrictions. Instead, time is savored as a precious gift from God. Time for your body to stretch and your soul to relax. How might you keep or practice Sabbath rest? Some turn off all electric devices and spend time in nature. Many spend time in community, whether with their church, family, or friends. I enjoy reading and reflecting. I invite you to set aside regular periods of rest and retreat, simply being in awareness of God's presence. Find a rhythm of rest and work that allows for renewal, so that you enter your active life from a contemplative grounding. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. And so in the spirit of Sabbath, let us sing together, remembering the truth and the power of rest as we join together in community, knowing it for ourselves, knowing it for all beings. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering who. In the beautiful, restful silence that is made powerful through the common intention of this community. Let us breathe in deeply and then exhale, opening our eyes in love and in service to what is, as it is, and so it is.
Yes, these are my pajamas. It could happen. I am just, I'll use that word, it's a good word, gobstruck by the amazing unity of it all. Y'all don't know this, but I was a Sabbath keeper for most of my young life. I didn't grow up Jewish, I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. We kept the same Sabbath. Sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. I've returned to the practice, but I do it on a Monday. It's more convenient. Each Jewish prayer begins with Baruch Atah Adonai. One way of translating it is to say that holy are you, O living one. Holy or blessed. This is a song of adoration and praise. It is called My One. From the fading light of the evening to the growing glow of the day, I am perfectly held in your hands, my one. And as the sun ascends to its glory and in beauty gives its rays, I stay surrounded. For in you I live, move, have my being. Do I love you, my one I do. There is none to love but you. There is nothing that can undo my love for you, my one. If I feel afraid for my future, or believe that no one really cares, still I'm perfectly held in your hands, my one. And so if I arise in bright ecstasy or fall in dark despair, I stay surrounded. For there's nowhere where your love can't find me. Do I love you, my one I do. There is none to love but you. There is nothing that can undo my love for you, my one, my one. Baruch atah Adonai, my one. Holy are you, O living one, my one. There is nothing else to love, from below to above, my one. Hear all of creation sing, my one, my love, my one. Do I love you, my one? I do. There is none to love but you. There is nothing that can undo my love for you, my one.
So today is about rest, because many of us are in our pajamas. How many of you watch Grey's Anatomy? Oh, a lot of you. Or Scandal, or what's the other one? How to Get Away with Murder, right? And you know that all of those have in common, they're all written by Shonda Rhimes, right? Who also wrote a book called, I think it's called The Year of Saying Yes, where she decided to look at her life and recognize where she was saying no and started saying yes to things like her own beauty, and yes to her body, and yes to play, and yes to speaking engagements that she was too afraid to take. One of those speaking engagements that she took was to give the commencement speech at Dartmouth University, where Shonda Rhimes went to school. And she said something that was unusual in a commencement speech. She said, everybody here, in most commencement speeches, and probably your family, and your professors, and just about everybody, now that you're graduating from this Ivy League school, will be telling you, you can do it all. And I'm here to tell you, you cannot do it all. This from an accomplished woman who's a icon in Hollywood, who has these successful shows, and she's got 3 children. And she said, you can do it all, but you may not do it all as well as you would like to do it. Because every time I have an important meeting, I am often missing my child's piano recital. Or if I'm going to my other child's soccer game, I'm missing an important meeting. So she spoke to the thing that seems to be happening across the board. You know, I was reading about Wayne Muller, who's written a lot about Sabbath and rest, that this is a universal principle, that it has no regard for race or creed, that people seem to have too much to do. Does anybody here have too much to do? Does anybody here have a to-do list that is like a terrorist? Does anybody here have a to-do list that when you chop something off, it grows another 5 or 6 limbs, right? And if there may be people here that feel like they don't have enough to do, and if so, would you like to come up here and let us know how that is? Okay, Ed, you're on. Ed's filming himself today, okay? Yeah, so you can pray for us. And I think that there may be some principles in this that are relevant, even if you feel like you don't have enough to do. Recently, since I attended the Buddhist conference that I did in June, where I was the MC up in Berkeley, I've been really fascinated by the 5 precepts of Buddhism, which are like, let's say, they're often seen as rules, but I have a different take on them. 5 precepts of Buddhism are, I'll give you the brief version, and I feel David Kerrigan boring a hole in me with his gaze, because he's a real Buddhist. But it's don't kill, don't lie, don't steal, don't use mind-altering intoxicants, and stay away from bimbos or mindless sex, okay? That's the gist of it. And I also have a newfound appreciation for them and also for the 10 Commandments, which a lot of us who are raised in the Judeo-Christian tradition were exposed to. And, you know, in the past, and sometimes in New Thought churches, people think of the 10 Commandments or the precepts as some, like, hairy finger of God saying, don't you do that, or if you do that, you're gonna go straight to hell if you violate these commandments. But I don't see it that way at all with a deeper practice of them. I see it as a gift of purifying one's consciousness to a place of, to mix Hinduism into this, to a place of ahimsa, which means harmlessness. I think we all long to be harmless, and if we're not lying, if we're not killing, if we're not stealing, if we're not engaging in mindless sex, if we're not using intoxicants, if we're honoring the Sabbath and keeping it holy, then that brings us to a place of greater purity and harmlessness, where we can actually receive all of the gifts that Spirit has given us through intense and immense grace. There's so much good here for us. But we sometimes have to shift out of the separate self, out of the ego mind, to connect with that good. I would say, to mix the Sufis into this, right? I love this church. So we've done Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and now we're getting into Islam, the Sufis, mystical Islam. The poet Hafiz says that our separation from God, from love, is our hardest work in the world. In fact, it is the only work in the world, to reconnect with the knowing that God is the power and presence that lives and moves and has its perfect being within us. It is our only work in the world. And so that commandment of honor the Sabbath and keep it holy is an invitation for us to purify and connect and engage in relationship with that energy of Sabbath, which is rest and ease and grace, and the unlimited gift of timeless time. So that's my hope and my purpose for all of us today, that we can reconnect with that thing that we call rest that sometimes eludes us because our to-do lists are so vast and so big, and the pressure from society is so compelling to do more, to be more, to have more. Many of us, myself included, are not as skilled at Sabbath or creating rest and ease as we would like to be. I'm much better now than I used to be, but in the past, I remember there was this time where I actually had to read a self-help book about Sabbath and attend a seminar class about how to rest. It was with Wayne Muller, who's a famous author. He wrote a book called Sabbath, actually, and it's a great book. But the day of the seminar, it was up in Santa Barbara at Casa de Maria, and I had worked a full day. I got up early, walked the dog 6 miles, which is actually a form of spiritual practice for me, so maybe that doesn't count, but it's still walking 6 miles, so it's long. So then got back and just started working all day long, calling people, making decisions, planning schedules, all kinds of things like that. And when it came time to go to the seminar, I got in my car and drove up to Santa Barbara, got into the room, and I took out my crocheting because I was making hats for charity at that time for children in countries that didn't have hand-crocheted hats, and I had a quota, so I was determined to use this time before Dr. Muller came into the room to start meeting my quota, to start getting some of those hats cranked out, right? So Dr. Muller came in, and he gave a lovely talk, and about a half hour into it, I woke up. The room was warm. I had fallen asleep. I was sitting in the front row. I'm not a pretty crier or a pretty sleeper. And I'm definitely not a pretty waker-upper. I think I woke up like, and then wiped the drool out of the corner of my mouth. And so after a few minutes passed, he was asking for questions and stuff, and I raised my hand and I stood up and I said, I just feel like I really need to apologize. I fell asleep in your class on Sabbath. And he said, no, you don't need to apologize. You're like the A student. You got the point. You rested in a class in Sabbath. What that means to me is that I think sometimes we need permission to rest. You know, we're so busy all the time, and we need permission to rest. But who's going to give us that permission? Certainly not the people that need things from us. Reverend Judy will give us permission? Reverend Judy, would you stand up and announce to everybody, I give you permission to rest? Okay, good, excellent, good. And now I'd like you to repeat after me. I have permission to rest. Because Reverend Judy said so. And she is wise. And holy. And I could go on, but I won't, okay? All right, so permission to rest, that's one thing. And if Reverend Judy's not there, think of her voice in your ear, in your head, or give yourself permission to rest. How about that? Wouldn't that be nice? Some of us are confused about Sabbath, you know, particularly if we were raised in the Seventh-day Adventist tradition or Judaism, or even, well, I was raised Christian, and we always heard Sabbath is a day of rest, Sunday is a day of rest in the other Christian traditions, not Seventh-day Adventist, but in the other Christian traditions. And I lived in an Orthodox, Hugh and I, when we lived in New York, lived in an Orthodox Hasidic neighborhood for a while, and Sabbath was serious. I worked in a psychiatric hospital at the time, and when there were Jewish clients in the hospital, you know, to ring the doorbell to get into the locked ward, and they couldn't ring the doorbell to get in. They could knock, but they couldn't ring the doorbell because the doorbell is electricity. So people take Sabbath very seriously. The Sabbath that I resonate with the most, though, is from the Buddhist tradition. It's from Thich Nhat Hanh in Plum Village. I have a friend that I know that through a friend of a friend, and he spent time in Plum Village, which is Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery in France, and he said that regularly they have what is called Lazy Day. Lazy Day is when you do nothing. You do what you want to do, as long as it's ethical, that is. You don't have to meditate, you don't have to pray, you don't have to hike. You just make a decision. You give yourself permission to be lazy for a day. Now, not everybody can do a full day of lazy day. I've incorporated in my life, largely because I'm addicted to email and I can't control myself, but I've incorporated lazy day practices that I intersperse throughout the day, throughout every day. One of my friends, Ari Nessel, who spoke here a while back, I've had the pleasure of driving with him in the car, and before he starts to drive, he'll take a full minute and just sit there and breathe to become centered and aware and relax his body. I think that would make me a better driver, don't you? So what I'm encouraging us to do is to find your own way of creating a lazy day for yourself, whether it's a lazy hour or a lazy 2 hours or a lazy afternoon or a lazy hike through the woods or a lazy sitting in your car for just a minute and just allowing yourself to rest. Find the triggers in your life, things that you do on a regular basis, and say, I'm going to take a moment before I do this, or I'm going to do this in a easy and relaxed manner. Because what I've found through incorporating moments of lazy day in my life is that the work itself, the work that is on my epic to-do list, it actually becomes almost like rest when I've practiced mini lazy days throughout the day. So my encouragement for you, if you would repeat after me, in my own unique way, I cultivate a personal lazy day. Again and again and again. Great. Judy Pando, do you agree? I agree. Okay, good. Okay, all right. You know, and then another thing to look at, I think, too, is the pressure that we put upon ourselves. The pressure that we put on ourselves to get things done, to think that we have to be enough somehow, that we have to be more than we are, that we have to have more than we have, that we have to do more than we do, because at the root of that is this idea of scarcity, that we are not enough. It was in Hugh's reading, and not enough unless we're producing, unless we are accomplishing something. I first learned about this many, many years ago. It took me a while to put it into practice, but when I realized how much I loved my cat, my first cat that I had as an adult, Miranda, and I realized that I loved her so much, and then I looked at how she spent her day. Sleeping, putting a leg behind her head and licking the back of her leg, occasionally chasing something. That was her life, and yet she was still so worthy of love. And the same thing is true for us. You can sleep all day. You can put your leg behind your head and lick the back of your, well, never mind, not here. I think where I see most people getting caught in busyness is through caretaking. Many people have children. More and more in this congregation have young children, and we know that is a rigorous practice of keeping up with lots of little demands coming at you, right? You saw when they were all up here. They all wanted something, right? And it's sweet, and it's beautiful, and it's wonderful, but it can sometimes feel like pressure. And then the other thing is parents. Parents, aging parents. Many, many people in this congregation are dealing with aging parents or aging spouses. And it can be a challenge to be that caregiver and to feel like they need so much, and you may not feel like you have enough to give all of the time, as much as they need. Is it just me, or do others feel that way too sometimes, right? Even pets, pets can be demanding. That bunny eats a lot. When I was in Jordan, I attended a seminar about caregiver burnout, because a lot of the people there were there to help the Syrian refugees, and they wanted to make sure that the caregivers did not get burnt out. And so one of the things that I shared, that I often tell people who are caring for aging parents or have a flock of many children or school teachers or what have you, is that if somebody is in trouble, if somebody next to you is drowning, yes, absolutely, you want to help them. You want to stand on the dock or stand on the ladder and put your hand in the water, but you still have to hold on. You cannot get into the water and drown with them. You cannot let them pull you under. And the teacher who was teaching the seminar took that as a metaphor, and he said, absolutely right, absolutely right. We are not obligated to have others cause us to drown. And what he suggested is to look at your life and your caregiving as a traffic light. Green means I'm good to go. Yellow means I'm starting to get a little tense. I'm starting to get a little stressed out. Red means I better stop before I do something that is destructive to myself or to somebody else. And that takes practice. He suggested that we listen to our bodies, that we listen to our hearts, that we listen to our minds, and that we just recognize when we are starting to go into that yellow zone, where we're starting to feel like we've had enough, and then we do something to ameliorate that so we don't go into the red zone of losing it, right? Anybody ever been in the red zone? And I work on this all the time, and I have to say I did it wrong the other night. I did it incorrectly. I was at Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving dinner down in Los Angeles, and I had actually gotten a person to help me with the driving. Not only for that purpose, my family insists on him coming down with me every year because they love him. It's Chris, by the way. And Chris was supposed to help me with the driving, but when the evening was over, I was like, I can drive, I'm good. And then I started getting sleepier and sleepier and sleepier. And did I stop? There were many places where I could have stopped, but I didn't. And finally, by the end, I was so exhausted, I almost ran a red light. And Chris saved us all by saying, wait, put on the brakes. But the thing is, not to punish ourselves for those things that we've done incorrectly, not to say I should have done it better, even though I should have. I could have, really. There were many places where I could have stopped, and I didn't know what was stopping me. I think it was trying to take care of somebody, trying to say, oh, Chris has never driven my car. He maybe doesn't know how to drive a Prius. Which is like completely infantilizing Chris, by the way. He's a very capable man. If he can play Mozart's whatever, he can certainly drive a Prius. But that's what I was doing in the little story I was making up in my head. But then, you know what you do? Okay, I could have done this better. I should have done this better. It's okay. I'm not opposed to the word should. But you say to yourself, next time, I'm going to do better. And sure enough, I got home. My sister who was with us needed something. All of the animals needed to be fed. There was sister, print her boarding pass. And he did. He managed. I did not have to do it all. Asking for help is a beautiful thing. So will you repeat after me? I do not have to do it all. I can ask for help. It is joy to ask for help. I love asking for help. I allow other people to shine when I ask for help. Yes. Good. And that's the thing. You know, I think part of the pressure on us too is this fear of asking for help, fear of not feeling like we're enough, and fear that we have to do it all, that there is a lot at stake and we have to do it all. But there's this story, there's this famous church story that I'll tell again, and it's a story about building a cathedral. And there's 3 builders building a cathedral, and somebody comes up to them and interviews them, and this is in, like, say, the Middle Ages, right? And he interviews the first guy, and the first guy says, yeah, this is a chore. Wow, this is so hard. I don't like building this cathedral. It's wearing me out. I guess, okay. And the guy interviews the second guy, and the guy says, well, you know, it's hard work, but it's a joy because I get to a good salary. I get to earn a good salary and feed my family. And the guy says, okay. And then the interviewer goes to the third guy, and the third guy says, I may not see the results of this, but every brick I lay is contributing to something magnificent that will bless generations to come. So if we can use that in the things that we do that feel like they're not enough, think of it as planting seeds, nothing more, laying bricks, that this brick matters. And my consciousness in terms of the way that I lay this brick, my restful, easy grace, and knowing that there is a bigger and higher power that is orchestrating all of this, and surrendering to that in my humility and my wisdom and my grace. And when I say my, I mean our, right? That this is our true source of power and our true source of rest. So I hope you've learned something today. Let us surrender to an inner energy of Sabbath as we pray. I turn within and trust to know that there truly is only one perfect life, and that life is easy and restful. And I connect with it now as I relax my body, relax my heart, relax my mind. If I've picked up any chores or any to-dos while I've been here sitting in this center, I just let them go for the moment and just know that I can sit here and not accomplish anything and be perfectly loved and perfectly whole and perfectly holy. And now I use that awareness to ripple into the details of my life, looking forward into the future. Looking forward into the things that I think I must do, and recognizing that I can ask for help, and that I can let go, that I can create periods of rest that are like my Sabbath, and that I have permission to do so. I know that this blesses my life and our life collectively, and that it creates a greater stability and a greater anchoring in the consciousness of grace that is all good, that is all powerful, that is all love. And so today we are light bearers. We are shining the light onto the energy of Sabbath, onto the energy of rest and ease, and trusting that all is well because God has got it covered. Love has got it covered. I am grateful for this knowing, grateful for the embodiment of this knowing and the application of this knowing into our lives, even in small ways, even in just planting small seeds. We are doing the work of holiness, and this is a beautiful thing that causes me great gratitude. I'm grateful for this teaching, and I bless all paths to God, churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams, fundamentalists, atheists, agnostics. I bless all of them. And with a heart that is so filled with blessedness, I say, thank you, Spirit, thank you, God, and I release these words into the divine mystery, and together we say, and so it is. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have.
This is a song of meditation. a time to rest and know that I'm one with the living one. Mm-hmm. Here's a song for the morning, morning. Rise and breathe in the feeling, feeling of nothing but blue skies, fresh and clear. Nothing to fear in this bright field, in this bright field of love and possibilities. Here is tailored time for sitting silent, still, still, breathing in the moment, this moment, before the clang cacophony of where to be descends on me. I sit, I breathe, I remember. Here's a song for the morning, morning. Rise and breathe in the feeling, feeling of nothing but blue skies, fresh and clear. Nothing to fear in this bright field, in this bright field of love and possibilities. Here is where I'll be, what simply can't be done. Simply being wholly in the moment, this moment. And though my mind may interrupt with thoughts both pious and corrupt, and for a time it may hold sway, still I sit, I listen, and remember. Oh, remember. Here's a song for the morning, morning rise. I rise up and I greet the day. Only good is coming my way. It's all love and possibilities. No need to beg and plead from down on my knees. I've got peace over here, I've got joy over there. I've got talent in my toes and abundance in my hair. All of life is here for me, and I have decided to believe it and receive it and remember. Oh, remember. Yeah. Here's a song for the morning, morning. Rise and breathe in the feeling of nothing but blue skies, fresh and clear. Nothing to fear in this bright field, in this bright field. A field of love and love and possibilities. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. I should have given you a better cue there.
So, it's so great to have all of you on stage today. Take a moment to wave to your families, okay? And then in just 2 minutes, if you give me a little time to talk, in 2 minutes I'm going to have a beautiful surprise for you, okay? So can you just kind of just hold it together for 2 minutes, and then I'll bring in the surprise, okay? So we have the kids on stage today because our youth and family program is growing. A while back, we set the intention to create a stronger youth and family program, and we've been doing all kinds of things, prayer and meditating and behind the scenes, and part of that growth has been to renovate Heron House, which is the place where we teach our children. So today children's message is a thank you about Heron House, and there's several people that I want to thank. First of all, there are several donors that gave generously, and their names are Anonymous, 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 and maybe Anonymous too. Okay, very generously, because it was a costly thing. So let's give them some love. We had a team of cleaners and space clearers. So if you were one of those, would you please stand up and let us acknowledge you? Shelley? Okay. Thank you. Parents, children, and staff were incredibly patient during the construction. So if you fit into that category, would you please stand up and let us acknowledge you? Thank you. Yay! Right. We had some outside help with the construction, and I'm not sure if any of those folks are here today, but if you helped with the construction of Heron House, would you please stand up? We bless you from afar, okay? All right. I'd like to also acknowledge Annette, our office manager, who did a lot of the coordinating of this, and our building committee, and Annette's way in the back, so she's standing up. Yeah. And I don't see our building committee here, but one of our building committee's in the balcony. Hi, Rick. Okay. And then last but not least, our project coordinator, manager, and his wife, who sacrificed to have him here almost all the time, is Norm Fort and Karen Fort. So let's have them stand up. Yay! Yeah. Now, please be seated. The surprise is almost here. Okay, gotta hold it together for another minute or so, okay? Norm, would you come on down for 1 sec? I just want to give you some stuff and just know that there's a better surprise than what's in the bag. I gotta tell you. The bag is nothing compared to the surprise I got for you, okay? All right. Okay, so Norm, come up on the stage and let me just acknowledge how generous you have been with us and how wonderful, and you have no idea the amount of time and planning and effort that went into this project. I have a couple of things for you. This is, we heard that the dog ate your boots, so this is a gift certificate for the wharf. We also know that you and Karen like to support family to family by providing them with food, so this is a gift certificate to provide food for family to family.
Thank you very much.
Sure. This is a tin full of coffee grounds for your compost. I'll just put that in there. And now, Chris, if you would strike up the band, let's have the surprise come down the aisle. I think you all need to salute, right? Yes. Here, we can just stop her here and I'll take her out. Uh-oh, let's not scare her. I'm going to take her out.
Can I carry her?
Just a minute. We'll let you. Yeah. So, yeah, and there's a surprise. If you could get the surprise under there, that'd be great. Okay, let's all go back on the stage, and I'm going to talk about the bunny for just a minute. Okay? Thank you. So this is, folks, I'm going to let you pet her in just a minute. Okay, you can pet her now. How about that? Everybody pet her gently, gently, yes. She's a very sweet bunny. This is a very big bunny. She's called a Flemish giant, okay? Her full name is Hippolyta, Queen of the Amazons, and that is her signature song that Chris played. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't have you all salute because she is very regal. She is a Flemish giant. Her nickname is Hip Hop, We also call her Hip Hop the Hun, and I like to call her Ipso Fatso sometimes. Whoa! she's happens when you have a live animal on stage. Like many of us, she gained a bit of weight over the holidays. She's 15.2 pounds, and Norm has a special love for what hip hop can give. So we have a tin of a gift from hip hop. There it is. That's from you. and let me just say, Norm, I know, Norm has a very, very generous spirit, but Norm, I beg of you, do not circulate in the social hall with that tin of goodies because it's not what it looks like, okay? It's a gift from hip hop. Okay, so knowing that hip hop is the face of God, we're all gonna go to my office and someone else is gonna lead the song. I don't know who, maybe Chris, maybe David, maybe Mary, and we're gonna sing the face of God. You're gonna help me put hip hop up in her little cage in my office and maybe give her a farewell pat. And then I should be back in time to pray. But if I'm not, we got that covered. Okay, so thank you so much, Norm. Let's give you another hand. You are the face of God. Thank you. My pleasure, my pleasure. By the way, after the service today, there is an open house at Heron House so you can see the work that has been done. Norm has before and after pictures. It's amazing. You are the face of God. Let's go. Here we go.
For the face of God.
Also wrote Invitation.